I believe that everybody has a story, and I'm fascinated to hear them. So come with me as we take a walk down Fascination Street. This episode is brought to you by Uber. You know Uber. Everybody knows Uber. If you don't already have an Uber account, go to the Support the Show page on my website, scroll down and click on the logo for Uber, and you will get $5 off your first 3 rides. Just because I sent you. How cool is that? So take advantage of that, and thanks for supporting the show. Hey guys, oh my gosh, I got to interview Kerri Kasem. She's a star and a radio personality in her own right, and she's also the daughter of none other than radio royalty Kasem Cares. We talk about her career, we talk about what she's doing now, of course we talk a little bit about her father, and we talk about how she's helping change and structure protection laws. Here you go, guys. Kerri Kasem.
Yeah, talk to me, yeah.
Hello?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes,
How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm excellent. How about you?
I cannot complain. It's finally a beautiful day here in San Antonio.
Oh, that's nice. Why, was it cold?
Yeah, like all of this month, it's been kind of, pretty cold. And I live about 30 miles outside of San Antonio, so it's typically about 10 degrees or so cooler here. And all of this month, it's been like, in the mid-30s in the mornings. And a couple of times it snowed.
Oh, it's freezing.
Yeah, a couple of times it snowed, and that's pretty unusual
that's
for
crazy.
us. Yeah. Okay, well, welcome to the show. Thank you. I really appreciate the time that you're taking to talk with me.
Absolutely.
So, let's go ahead and start with a little bit of background. You are a radio personality. You worked with Nikki Sixx for a bunch of years on Sirius satellite radio.
On FM, we were on 170 stations. We were on Sirius. We were all over this country on FM, and then we were in different countries around the world. It was pretty amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That's really cool. So how did that come about?
I got a call from my agent, and they said, hey, you know, there's a big opportunity with Clear Channel, which is now iHeartRadio. And they said, well, we can't tell you who your co-host is. You just got to go in, and they were keeping everything secretive. And they had me, audition without him, read breaks and do commercials and talk about music and just pop culture things. And then they had me back in again. And when I was in for the second time, there was Nikki Sixx from Motley Crue. And we, had a great audition, and they hired me. And I was there for about 4.5 years. And we had a lot of fun on the road.
That sounds wild. So I'm assuming you were a big fan of Motley Crue before that?
I was a fan. I'll tell you something. I grew up, I was in, the 80s metalhead, so I loved everything. But my most favorite band was Guns N' Roses. So I got to, when Nikki was out, I got to co-host with Slash and Duff McKagan, and it was just a dream come true. I got to tour with Kiss and Alice Cooper and Poison, and it was amazing. The New York Dolls, it was very cool.
That sounds so badass.
Yeah, it was really cool.
I am also a product of the 80s. Like, I was born in 74. And
yeah.
That is the hit list of the coolest shit that happened in the 80s.
It was awesome.
So, how did you get started into the radio industry? I mean, I know about your dad, and we'll talk about him later, but
right.
But how did you personally get into it?
Well, I always loved singing, dancing, the arts, theater. I wanted to be an actor, and I went to school for it, and I just, I did some TV shows and movies, and I was doing a lot of theater, and my brother got hired to start MTV Asia, and so he moved to Singapore, and he's like, love this. You would just love, hosting, and he was out there a year, and I remember I'm like, you know what, I'm going to try going to radio school. It's a year. I'm just going to learn how to work a board. And but I was not a big, this is crazy, but I was not a big music person. I didn't want to just play the records and talk about that. I like to talk. I was addicted to talk radio. So I love talk radio. So I remember going to school and all I had to do was back sell, front sell all the records and run my own board, and it was a good education, but I really wanted to talk and be me. And my brother calls, he's like, you should come out here. You would love this. So in 97, I go out to Singapore, and I spend a year doing radio out there. I was on MTV. I was an MTV VJ, and when I came back, that's all I wanted to do. I was just in love with hosting and talk radio, and that's when I started it. So that's how I got into it. I pitched a show. I remember pitching a show to Jack Silver and Bob Moore with me and my friend who could read tarot cards and a Playboy Playmate, and I called it Two Chicks and a Bunny. And for some reason, they took it. We were god-awful. We were so bad. But we were overnights until we got we got better, and we kept getting better. And so they gave us Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. So we were out 3 nights. At the same time, I was working for Kent Emmons, who was on National Lampoon's Radio. I was doing stuff for them, and then I got hired by United Station to do a show with Ricky Rathman, and I did that show with him for 7 years, and I did all the car and motorcycle reporting, and he did all NASCAR, and I had a blast. So from there, my career took off.
K-Rock was so big that I guess everybody's kind of like a family. You know, there's extended family and cousins who don't talk about and stuff like that. But I feel like K-Rock as an organization, it was kind of a family. Are you still in contact with some of the people that you used to work with and hang out with from there?
The radio world is a very small world. So, yes, I definitely, will see people, whether or not we talk on the phone all the time, but I see them because I still work at Cumulus. I still work, at a local station out here. I have a syndicated mortgage finance show, so I'm in the radio world. So I still see a lot of people,
That's cool. I was just curious because I've never heard you on like the Adam Carolla show, so I was just...
No. I worked with him, though, at 97.1 when I think he took over for Howard Stern when he left, and there was Adam Carolla, and he was on the same lineup. There was one show, and then I came after him. So I'd always see him, but no, I haven't. I was with Adam Carolla when he was hosting Loveline, and I remember we had a blast. I had so much fun.
So you have, well, we won't talk about this very long, but you have a vapor store in Beverly Hills, is that right?
No, I sold that almost 3 years ago.
Oh my God!
I did.
I'm
I sold
amazing.
That 3 years ago, and it was an experience. I'll tell you that much. I just thought, I think what the cigarette business and what the companies have done to vapor is really too bad. I think putting nothing into your lungs is best, but if you're a smoker and you could switch to vapor, I think it would save your life. And unfortunately, when you have these big companies coming in and playing commercials that are full of misinformation and, knocking out a lot of the vapor business, I think you've just killed a few people. Because if you switch to vapor, especially like organic juices and organic things, I think it could save your life. And let me reiterate, while putting nothing into your lungs is best, if you're going to put something in, let it be vapor, not smoke. So my grandmas died of smoking, both of them. And then my boyfriend stopped smoking because of vapor, and he smoked for a very long time, and he's been off now for 6 years. So I think it does save lives.
That's awesome. My wife and I don't smoke. I used to smoke for a lot of years, but we don't smoke. But lately my wife has been trying to she's been dropping hints that she wants me to get her a vapor. She doesn't want to smoke cigarettes.
Get a vapor, but you don't have to put nicotine in it. You can leave it without.
She was saying
that.
Yeah,
and so it satiates you. Yeah.
So I'm probably going to be doing that pretty soon for her.
Look for an organic company. They have a lot now.
Oh, okay. Cool. Well, let's talk about your dad. So your dad is a radio personality. He's radio royalty, Casey Kasem, and some things happened a few years ago that kind of got you started in sort of a political direction. Can you talk about that?
Yes, sure. Yeah, when my stepmother decided she wasn't going to let anybody see my dad, completely isolate him, not give him the care he needed, fire his staff, not give him a telephone. My dad was diagnosed with Parkinson's and then another diagnosis of Lewy body dementia. And we saw my dad every week, talked to him every day on the phone until he lost his voice. We were extremely close to my father. I worked with him for many, many years. He was my hero. I ran everything by him, and we saw him every week. And when my dad got sick enough, she basically kept him in a room in her house with a housekeeper and wouldn't let him talk to anybody, wouldn't let him see anybody. So I called the police thinking they would help. They didn't help at all. I called Adult Protective Services. They didn't help at all. In fact, the police, after we called for a few welfare checks because we couldn't see or talk to my dad, they called us nuisances. And there was no laws, and there still is, no law in place unless the Kasem Cares bill is there, that helps protect adult children and their visitation rights to their elderly or sick parents. There's no laws. So once your parent gets sick and a caretaker comes in, whether it's a wife, a husband, a second spouse, another child, guardian, anything like that, and they decide you're in a residential home or you're in an assisted living, and they decide they don't want this person to have visitors, you'll never see your parents again unless you're going to spend tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars in court, and you may not even win that. So we did go to court. We did fight for my dad. We were told this was an unwinnable case against a wife of 30 years. I would not accept that. My brother and sister signed a document with my dad's wife stating they could see my dad a couple times a month for, it was some ridiculous, like 30 minutes, and they had to come in alone. And I said, this woman's never going to honor this agreement. She's had 13 sets of lawyers since we started this. She's in lawsuits all the time. I think she had 18 lawsuits at that point. Like, I mean, she's just litigious. She doesn't keep her word. And I said, you think you're going to see Dad? You really think you're going to sign your ability to fight for Dad away just because she says you're going to see Dad? They signed it. They never saw my dad. I continue to fight. I won an unwinnable fight. I changed the law in California. I've changed the laws in 11 different states. And, you know, there's so much to the story. There's a lot more to the story. But that's, you know, the basic nutshell of it is, you know, you do not have any rights to see your parents once you turn 18, and people do not know that. You know, and then you always hear, oh, it was money. We never asked for money. In the year-long fight, not one of us asked for money. We just asked for visitation. And she, at the end of his life, once I won that court case and I won guardianship over my father, she took him out of the state. She hid him in different places, including Las Vegas, possibly Arizona, and then Washington State. And when you take a man that is that ill, now I got to see him once before she took him on this road trip. I got to see him for about 3 hours with my sister, my boyfriend. He was in a nursing home, and we had a wonderful visit. He had no infection. He had no bed sores. He looks great. He could talk a little bit. He was so happy to see us after the months of absence, after being left alone in a nursing home with no visitors. And yeah, his wife didn't visit him. You know, their daughter didn't visit. He was just left alone there for months. He was so happy to see us, and he asked, when are you coming back? And we said, you know, we'll be back tomorrow, Dad. And 2:30 in the morning, she unhooked his feeding tube, unhooked his IVs, put him in a wheelchair, and then decided to take him all over the country. And by the time she got to Washington, a couple weeks later, a week and a half later, he was very ill. He had dehydration. She hadn't fed him in 2 days. There was bed sores on him. He had a bladder infection, a lung infection, and I had to go up and fight in Washington for my guardianship to be heard. And that took another, 2 weeks. By the time we got in the hospital, he was dying. And so her little road trip and her hiding him from us and keeping him from us killed him. So the DA, the district attorney, would do nothing. The man who did the entire investigation, Detective Dean Hodges, I remember it was 11 months later, and the DA decided she didn't have enough evidence to prosecute for elder abuse. The detective said to me, "Did she even read my report? If this isn't a case of elder abuse, nothing is." That's what he said to me, and he was the head of the elder abuse unit. So we got no justice. So we had to sue for a wrongful death suit, and we are in the middle of that, and hopefully it will conclude this year. But, there's very little justice for elder abuse, very little.
You said that they had a child together?
They have a child, yes.
Now, was that child able to see him?
She's abusive. She's extremely abusive. No, she's Jean's child with my father, and she's extremely abusive. What we have found out from the caretakers and people who were in the house, that she was just as abusive as his wife. And she said some things. We weren't going to include her in the wrongful death suit until we found out what she had done to him. She was lying to the press about us. And we said, you know what? She's just as to blame. She could have let us in that house. She could have called us up and said, hey, Dad's here in this hospital. Dad's at this assisted living. Dad's here at this nursing home. She never did. She's an accomplice, and her and her mother are extremely abusive. So, if anybody's listening to this and they're going through this, they can't see their dad, they can't see their mom, or, somebody's telling them, oh, their parent is too tired to come to the phone, that's a big red flag. They start to put wedges in between their friends, they start to isolate. Immediately get to your parent and put them on film, asking them if they get sick and they can't take care of themselves, if the person isolates them from friends and family, they should be removed from, your care immediately. Immediately get that on film. Get your will and estate plans in order. And even if you think, if somebody's listening, they think this could happen to them in their future, please, please, please get your parent on film stating they want to see you even when they're sick. They want you in their house. It's so important. I can't tell you, people call me up and say, I never thought this would happen. I never thought this would happen. And you don't have to be rich. This happens to hundreds of people. I've gotten hundreds of letters from people across the country, and that's why I started the Kasem Cares Foundation. So if this is happening to you, we do have a grief counselor. We have somebody that helps, that went through this. Julie Belshi, she's amazing, and you can go to Kasem, and that's K-A-S like Sam, E-M like Mary, KasemCares.org, and the phone number's there. You can write us. We have the bills up there. We have ways to get you help.
Oh, that's awesome. What's the phone number there? Do you know it offhand?
It's on that. No, we switched it. It's right there.
Okay.
The phone number is right there. So if you go to KasemCares.org, you'll see it. It's in red. It's a big red block. You'll see it. And if you can put it up on your site, that would be great as well.
Yeah, it'll be in the show notes.
Get help. You can see.
It'll be in the show notes for sure. This sounds like it might not be as uncommon as the average person might think. Is there anybody, are there any famous children of siblings who are kind of in this with you in the fight?
Yes. Yeah. It's funny when this happened, and when I went public with it, and I protested outside my father's house with my father's friends and family members because nobody could see my dad. Nobody could get in. I started getting calls from very famous kids with very famous parents. Let me say that. Very famous parents. I got calls from Mickey Rooney's children, Glenn Campbell's children, the Meisners, Randy Meisner from the Eagles. And there were a couple that I don't want to say because they've asked me not to say that, I've been asked not to say, so I've kept it private, but they reached out to me, and I've stayed friends with them, and now they travel the country with me, testifying on behalf of the bill. And right now, the Kelly Rooney, Mickey's daughter, and Travis Campbell, Glenn Campbell's son, and his wife Trudy, they're coming with me to Michigan at the end of the month to testify for a bill in Michigan, which happens to be my dad's home state.
Oh, wow. So a lot of the behavior that you described from your father's wife sounds a lot like, Frank Sinatra's last few years and what his kids had to go through.
Exactly. But, I've been shooting a documentary for the last 4 years because people think this happens to just rich, famous people, which is not true at all. Most of this happens to people that can't fight. They don't have the money. They don't have the $5,000, $10,000 for a retainer to a lawyer to see their family again. So you find these caretakers that come in. Once again, it could be a wife, it could be another sibling, it could be a professional guardian appointed by a court. They come in and they'll take your house, they'll sell your house, they'll sell your car, they'll sell anything that you have, and they'll steal everything from you and then isolate you from your loved one. And this happens all the time. I mean, it's an epidemic. So, and it's you only hear about it when it happens to somebody famous. You only hear about it, and which is unfortunate. That's why I've been working the last 4 years on a film that shows it happens to everyone, famous or not.
So this bill that you've gotten passed in a bunch of states and are working on getting, I guess, the rest of the states, is it specific to parents, or do grandparents and other relatives include?
No, it's specific for the most part to parents. Now, it can be adoptive parents. It could be, we try to make it to where it can be family members asking, not just kids and adults, but family members asking for visitation to other family members. Most of the time, though, that doesn't pass. You have to be very specific. And, of course, there is bills already protecting, the rights of grandparents and to see their grandchildren. But no, it's pretty specific in most states. Each state will take a bill and chop it up, and they will kind of cater it to what they need.
Got you. My mother passed in 2013, and at that time, her mother was living with my mother and her husband. And when my mother passed, we all asked my grandmother, what she wanted to do, where she wanted to go. Did she want to come with us or my sister or, move somewhere else? And she said that she wanted to stay with my mom's husband. And that was fine for about, I guess, 6 or 7 months. And then basically my sister and I were denied access to my grandmother. So we couldn't visit her. I mean, we could visit her, but only when he wasn't home, and she wouldn't let us in the house. So she'd, come out into the front yard and sit on a bench and talk to us.
It's terrible. That's isolation. That's a crime. In most states, that's criminal. It's disgusting. I don't know where these people that have no empathy, no compassion, they're insane to me. I've seen so many of them. They really have no ability to have compassion or empathy for somebody. And it's very scary when you face these people. It's very scary. Because it's like they're not human. They come off as it. They pretend to be compassionate. They will tell you, they will make up stuff right on the spot about somebody doing something to them or why it's not good for this person to have visitation. It is terrifying how bad it is with these people, and we've seen so many of them, and they're cookie cutter. We'll know that they're going to say bad things about the kids, and we'll know how they say it. It's too bad, but there needs to be laws that protect them. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're putting laws in place that protect children and ailing adults or the elderly from predators like this.
Yeah, it's pretty horrific. I mean, like you said, these people are basically criminally insane, I guess, because it doesn't make any sense to me. But I don't understand what's in it for them. Like, what do they get out of it?
Well, a lot of it's spite, and they're just evil people, and it's unbelievable. Unless you've actually come across them, you don't understand what and truly is like a sociopathic mind. It's very scary because they come off as so normal, but everybody around them is upset or they're sick, or you can there's telltale signs of sociopath. I mean, really, there are. A lot of it is money, even if it's no joke. I mean, even if it's just a few $1,000s. They will do whatever they can to take it. They will make up excuses of why they should have it. It could be very little. Maybe they're getting Social Security and they're taking the Social Security of the sick person. There's so many reasons that they will give you that are all, in their mind, normal. And in your mind, you're like, this is unbelievably psychotic. You have taken a woman or a man that has family, that loves them, that wants to see them. They're probably very lonely and scared, and you've completely isolated them because you want to take a few $100 of their Social Security, or you want to, maybe take their house, sell it, and keep all the money. I mean, we just, every excuse, and it runs the socioeconomic gamut. It really does. You could have $100, you could have $100 million. You're just going to find people that will take anything you have, and it's too bad. Now, Steve, I was telling you about the conference I'm doing in Vegas at the end of the month, which I'm very, very excited about. I'm talking in front of 10,000 people, and basically talking about my life experience and how I came to win an unwinnable case, how I changed the laws, how I did it, and what mindset you have to be in to do something that when somebody tells you impossible, that motivates you instead of stops you. When somebody tells me no, that's a huge motivator to me. You know, oh, be reasonable. Oh, be realistic. Forget it. Nobody ever changed the world being realistic. So I'm really excited to be speaking in front of, it's called Grant Cardone's 10X Growth Con. Have you heard of it?
I haven't. I didn't even know that all the work that you're doing, and I live in Texas, and you know, you got that passed here, and I had no idea. So it would be great if there were some PSAs to get the word out or something. I know that costs money, but it's one thing to get the bill or law enacted, but it's quite another thing to let everybody know about it.
I know. And I do get on radio, I do get on TV, and I do talk about it absolutely as much as I can, you know, and somebody's going through this, they look for help, and they'll find us. You know, we get every single day we get somebody. Sometimes when I do radio or I do TV, we'll get flooded with calls and flooded with letters. So I do the best that I can, you know, with my foundation and with work. It took the last 4 years of my life, I've really dedicated to it. And now I'm getting really back into my radio and things that make me a bit happier. It's very hard being in this situation, constantly telling my story over and over again, testifying, talking to victims. I mean, it is really an epidemic, and things need to change federally. So we're going that way too. So it will change once it's federal. It'll change all 50 states instead of going one by one, which we're still doing as well. But I've needed something in motivational speaking and talking about how you can change the world, how you can change your life, has really fulfilled a lot in me as well.
Yeah, that sounds really heartbreaking, and it sounds like a tough way to spend all of your time. So I'm glad that you're getting back into some of the happier things.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
So this conference is in Las Vegas at the end of this month, February of 2018.
Yes, I speak, I think it's February 23rd. It goes 4 days. So it's 22nd, 23rd, 24th, I think, maybe 25th. I have to look at my calendar, but yeah, it's called the 10X Growth Con. It has all of the biggest motivational speakers, entrepreneurs, business entrepreneurs speaking. You know, if you want to change your life, I would listen to Grant Cardone. He's on Instagram. He's live every day. Him and his wife and his 2 kids, and he's you know, worth a lot of money, but he came from nothing. I mean, if you hear this guy's story, he came from, poverty and from doing drugs and from just being just a loser in life to saying, I'm going to change my life around, and coming from nothing and building an empire and being ethical and moral and having the life that he created, the life he wanted, and he loves his wife. And he, you know, they love each other and they've created it together. And he's not afraid to say, you know, you see a lot of these, you know, multimillionaires and billionaires with all these women and their cars and this and that. He has that. He talks about how much he loves his family, how much he loves his wife, and how you can change your life, you know, and start being more successful, bringing in more money and being, you know, ethical while doing it. And he's such a great message. So I listen to him for my inspiration. Find whoever inspires you. Listen to them. You know, change your life, and you can be happier and more successful. And so I've been doing that. I've been doing that the last few years of my life, and you know, hopefully making a difference in people's lives. And that's, I think, the most important thing you can do is help people. And you have to help yourself first to help people. Well,
I think that you're doing the Lord's work there.
Thank you.
My sister and I, when we used to go to my grandparents' house to visit, we would gather, just the 2 of us, my sister and I would gather around the radio and listen to your dad's American Top 40.
Oh,
yeah. So, you know, your dad kind of, just like most Americans of a certain age, he was pretty integrated into our lives and our experiences.
Yes.
And so my sister actually wanted me to ask you, what's the biggest lesson that you learned from your father?
Oh, that's a good question. That's an awesome question. I learned so many lessons from my dad. The reason why I am today who I am today is because of my father. You know, one of the life lessons he always taught me was you have your name, and that's all you have. And once that's gone, you have nothing. So be ethical, be moral, be kind to people. I mean, he would always say that. He would always give us life lessons. He would give us an anecdote about his life and what he learned from it. He said, if we asked him for something, he said, well, if I buy it for you, you won't take care of it. You won't appreciate it. If you get a job, you'll get self-esteem. You'll buy the things you want. You'll take care of it. You'll appreciate it. And so work ethic was very, very important to him. Education was very, very important to him. So, I work. I love working. If I keep myself extremely busy. I feel good when I work. A lot of people think, oh, I'm just rich because I was a trust fund baby. Far from it. We didn't get my dad gave us the biggest lesson in life, and it's to work for yourself, to make your own money. And so he gave us so many life lessons. He was just an incredible father, an incredible man, and I miss him every day. And I just hope that I could pass his life lessons on and to people I know and to my nieces and to my family. So he left such a invaluable footprint, and I live with it every day, and I love it.
Well, that's a great answer. Your dad had a lot of, I would call them Casey-isms, where he would say things. And one of the things that I remember the most from his show was he said, if you stand for nothing, what will you fall for? And you'll
fall for anything.
Right.
Yep.
And I've heard, sort of basically that quote in the Hamilton, but I still attribute it to your dad, and I think it's awesome. Are there any dadisms that you find yourself using?
So many quotes. He carried a quote book around. He loved quotes. Quotes was his thing. Whenever he'd start off a speech, it'd be with a quote. And there's so many of them, but that was definitely one. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. It's very true. Oh my God. Yes, so many quotes.
That's okay.
Like something about getting involved in a cause that may not ever be, something like come to fruition, something in your lifetime. Like get involved in a cause, even if, maybe it's an environmental cause that may not be solved in your lifetime. But get involved, change something now. I remember that. But he had so many quotes. I can't even tell you. I have his quote book. I have his quote book. So
that's awesome.
But it was mostly his stories about his life and what his lesson that he learned from. And they're just invaluable stories. And he wrote a whole book of stories, of his life stories. I have a whole book of it. We wanted to publish it, and we may do. But it was awesome. But working hard, being kind, that was the most important thing to him, was be kind to people.
That makes it extra tragic, everything that went down.
Yeah, it does, because he was so kind to people. He was so kind.
So your dad used to do long-distance dedications. This is going to sound funny, but did he ever do one to you?
No, but I worked with him for many years, and I remember being, he would go in to do his show, and there were some long-distance dedications that got to him so much that he would start crying, and we would have to stop the show, and he couldn't get through it. And so it would take a while for him to be able to get through something because it touched him that much. Yeah, it was amazing to watch him do that. He never wanted to do anything fake. No letters could be created by his staff. It was always real, and he always read all the letters. And it was amazing. People asked him, like, what's the difference between you and this, and why are you, so popular? How have you become like the voice of America? And he was at one point the most listened to voice in the world. And he said, my sincerity. My sincerity. I'm sincere. I believe in and there were many times that he was asked to do commercials. He was a vegan. So when he was asked to do commercials for cereal, he wouldn't do it because there's milk in cereal. For restaurants or for Vegas, when they wanted to make a top 40 machine, he's like, I'm not going to contribute to somebody losing their money. I'm not going to, he had such high morals and ethics, and I think he passed that down to all three of us, my sister, my brother, and myself, Mike, Julie, and me. Unfortunately, that didn't happen with his second wife or her daughter. So it's like two different people. It's two, we tell the truth. I think we're honorable. I said we all work for a living. We all pay our own bills. And, when you do that, you have a sense of self and self-esteem. But when you lived off of somebody your whole life and you have no job and it's like a whole other different type of living and a different type of person.
Indeed. So with all of the anger and the resentment, how did things go at your dad's funeral when he finally passed?
Well, the anger and resentment was there when we were going through it, but it's funny, I don't live with that because I think that will kill you. I think if you live with anger and resentment, it will kill you. I look at the situation and go, I hate what happened to my dad. I do not like what they did to him, and we will have justice. I don't carry around hate because that will kill you. It will literally kill you. And I did for so many years. So many years, I hated them, and I'm angry. No, they are, what they are. I hate what they did to my dad. I don't like, who they are, but I'm not going to hate them. I'm not going to carry around that hate and anger. I just will put something more positive, and that's towards the wrongful death suit, and be positive we're going to win, and we'll have justice for my dad. But I don't. It's weird, and some people don't understand, but I don't hate them.
Good for you. I think that's a pretty healthy
Yeah.
approach. Was there a funeral for your father?
We had a huge memorial with all my dad's friends, co-workers, family, everything, in a big church. It was a Bel Air Presbyterian, and it was wonderful, and that was his memorial. But his wife falsified his death certificate, stating he had lived in Jerusalem for 18 years. He never visited Jerusalem. He's never been there, and they wouldn't let her bury him there. So she tried to bury him in her boyfriend's hometown of Montreal, and we stopped that. So then she wrote letters to France and wrote letters to Norway. And Norway believed her lie that she was Norwegian and that she was going to move there because they always wanted to live there. And we had all of my dad's family, friends, Mike Curb, who used to be the Lieutenant Governor of California, who owns Curb Records, one of my dad's best friends, who my brother is named after. He wrote a letter saying no, he was going to pay for my dad. That was his gift to my dad, and said, Casey, I'm going to pay for your funeral expenses. And my dad wanted to be buried here in California at Forest Lawn. But she got Norway to believe that she was Norwegian and they were going to move there. So she buried my dad in Norway in an unmarked grave. It's been unmarked since his death. And it's we're going to get him back. And that's one of my quests, is to get my dad buried where he wanted to be buried, so people can come and pay their respects. And it's just too bad. She buried him in a place nobody knows him, no gravestones. Sixth Sense, my former radio show, we were on in Sweden and in Norway, so people knew who I was. So when I said my dad was buried there, I've had people who listen to me go and put flowers. They found him. They found the grave, put flowers and candles and everything on his grave. Every month they go and visit, and they send me pictures, which has been very nice.
Wow. That is just such a horrible experience for you and for everybody involved, really. So I know that you got to go, and I want to go out on a happy note. Can you tell us a happy story about maybe you and your dad?
Gosh, there's so many. I'll tell you a funny story. My dad, when I was 16, I was going to Beverly Hills High School, and my sister and brother, we were all going to this. We lived in Beverly Hills for a little while. Actually, for my first 13 years of growing up. Then we moved outside of it, which I was very happy to get out of there. But then we moved back for a couple of years, and I'm in this school, and the parking lot of Beverly Hills High School looks like an exotic car rental. There are kids that drive Ferraris and Porsches, and I mean, it's insane, right? And I walked to school. We walked to school, and I thought, okay, 16, I'm going to get a car, and because I'm going to get to drive my brother and sister, and they're going to want help. And I remember, hinting to my dad, and we were all hinting, can carry a car. And I remember asking him a few weeks out, I said, Dad, give me a hint. What are you going to get me for my 16th birthday? And he says, okay, all right, I'll tell you, it's silver. And I'm like, all right, silver's cool. So maybe not the first color I choose, but we're good for silver. And I said, okay, another week goes by, and I ask him again, Dad, give me another hint. What are you going to get? What is it? Just give me something. And he says, it's metal. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a silver car. I know it. The week before my birthday, I ask him for another hint, and he tells me it's got keys. And I tell everybody, I tell all my friends, I tell, my brother and sister, we're all excited. I'm getting a car. And I go on my 16th birthday, and I see this big box in the living room, huge box. And I'm thinking, okay, my dad was not a big gift giver. He would do a gift here or a gift there. It wasn't like, oh, fill the room with gifts for, because it's your birthday. It just didn't happen that way. So I'm looking at him like, okay, well, maybe he's buried the keys. What is this? What is it? What could this possibly be? So I open this box, and there's this white styrofoam, and I try to pick it out. It's heavy. So my brother and sister come over. We put our hands in it, and we lift the big white styrofoam out, and we pick off the styrofoam, and there it is. It's metal. It's silver. It's got keys. It was my brand new typewriter. There you go. That was my dad for you. I wasn't doing well enough in school. I didn't have a job to pay for the car. You know, it was, you know, do well in school. And he was so excited about this typewriter because it had a backspace that could erase the letter, and I didn't have to use whiteout. No joke. He was so excited to show me that. So that's my dad. He wanted us to do well in school. He wanted us, you know, to work for getting a car, you know. He wasn't just going to give to us. And that was an awesome life lesson. I was really bummed at the time. Hurt a lot.
Well, I do want to thank you so much for your time, Kerri. As we go out, will you tell everybody where they can find you on social media and give us your website again?
Yes, so I'm on social media. I answer everything myself. Nobody replies for me. It is me and me alone. And you can find me at kerrikasem.com. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I'm on it, and it is me. I do not let any PR or anybody do that for me. So, yeah.
And tell us where Kasem Cares is one more time.
KasemCares.org. That is actually at kerrikasem.com. So you'll find everything.
Cool. Thanks. Now everybody go to Las Vegas and check her out at the end of this month.
There you go. And that's on there too.
Thank you so much, Kerri. Have a great rest of your day, and go kick ass in Las Vegas.
Oh, thank you so much. I will. We'll talk soon.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey guys, if you like what I'm doing, rate and review the podcast on iTunes and wherever else you're getting the podcast. And if you do order things from Amazon, it would really help me out if you use that Amazon banner that's on the website at fascinationstreetpod.com and just click through whenever you're buying stuff from Amazon. You can click through the first time and then save that to your favorites or bookmark it, and every time you use it, you don't have to go to the website to get there. I appreciate it, guys. Enjoy. Opening music is the song Magnolia from the 2014 album In Transigence, used with permission from Douglas Myers Clark. Closing music is Apollo from the 2001 album Into the Known by the band Sapphire. Thanks for hanging out with us and getting to know a little bit about our guest. We'll see you next time on Fascination Street.